Harold continuously did things for the employees. I mean, we had more Christmases in July than you can shake a stick at, where he would just mail out a check to all the employees.
In the latter days of Harold's life, when he was really struggling with pain, and he would hobble over to the Schafer Center to autograph Mr. Bubble boxes for little children. He loved to see the smile on those children's faces.
He was somebody you could go to and talk to and sound him out. You didn't always go along with him, but you always wanted to know how he was feeling, because it was another idea that generally was correct.
Over my lifetime, I never heard him say a disparaging word about another person.
I couldn't imagine anyone else other than Harold to be the person that this program is named after. He was a great man. He had a lot of great ideas. The program has found a good match.
A leader is one who goes first, but a leader also serves as a guide for those who follow, thereby linking the past to the future. Harold Shaffer was such a man, and the example he set and the dreams he left behind for others to build on are truly a legacy of leadership. I'm Kevin Cramer, and I'd like to share with you the story of that legacy and its continuing impact on North Dakota and generations of future leaders. In 1998, when the University of Mary sought an individual to lend his name to an exciting new leadership program, it was looking for someone who was a recognized leader, a visionary, entrepreneurial in spirit, and a man of faith. Harold Shaffer was all of these and much more. Charismatic, persuasive, persistent, and passionate, he also possessed that legendary work ethic that enabled him to build one of the largest, most successful businesses in our state's history. Yet Harold was always more interested in sharing than accumulating wealth. Through the years, his son, former North Dakota Governor Ed Shaffer, witnessed the countless acts of generosity that evidenced Harold's quiet yet determined faith in God.
Harold Shaffer is the embodiment of servant leadership. He served people. He cared for them. He shared with what he had, whether it was his knowledge or his resources or whatever. He just liked people. And his, if someone said, gee, I'd really like to help that person out, but I shouldn't right now, he'd say, I'd really like to help that person out, and I will. I mean, he just did it. And he didn't think about the ramifications to himself or his bank book or, whatever. He said, that person needs a smile and a handshake today. He'd do it. I think importantly, Harold Shaffer was a very humble man. He didn't start his business because he had visions of having his name on a building or, buying all kinds of real estate or, making all kinds of money. He really started his business because he wanted to put food on the table and keep a roof over the head for his family. One of the things I learned from him that's been important in my life was not to set yourself apart. That is an important aspect of what success is all about. I think it's important not to put Harold Shaffer on a pedestal. He was a real person. He made mistakes. He said dumb things like we all do. And he still was able to be successful like we all can be. When I grew up, he was always talking about Medora, and I remember going out there as a very young person, and he's saying, we have to save this place, there's too much here to be lost, there's too much history to disappear, and I'm looking around going, there's nothing here, He had a great vision of wanting to keep that special place in this state and allow the people of North Dakota and the surrounding areas the opportunity to visit there and to see it and to enjoy it.
Harold's leadership in developing the historic town of Medora into one of North Dakota's leading tourist attractions was a natural outgrowth of his respect for history, his love for his home state, and his desire to share his success, as shown in this video produced by the Theodore Roosevelt Medora Foundation.
Won't carry me back to the lone prairie where the coyotes hide.
Harold Shaffer has worn many hats in his day. Businessman, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. A friend to the state of North Dakota, and a friend to the town of Medora. Who is Harold Shaffer? How did he come to be known across the nation as one of the most generous, kind-hearted, and independent spirits ever to hail from North Dakota? Raised near Stanton, North Dakota, Harold Shaffer grew up with dreams of becoming a farmer. As a boy, he spent many happy hours doing chores on the family farm.
So we moved on a little farm west of town. just ordinary people. We had a few milk cows, and we had a team of working horses, and my dad did a little farming.
Young Harold often accompanied his father on visits to the tiny prairie town of Medora, then a mining community in western North Dakota. Medora would never be far from Harold's thoughts. The story of the Marquis de Morez particularly inspired Harold, a French aristocrat who founded the city of Medora in 1883. De Morez envisioned a meatpacking empire in western North Dakota, but saw it collapse only 3 years later. In De Morez, Harold saw a kindred spirit. Like the Marquis, he never looked back. Hard work and long hours were no stranger to Harold. Instead of farming, he became a salesman, traveling across the state on behalf of Fargo Glass and Paint. For the first time, Harold was in a position to give something back to Medora. Throughout the years, Harold spent as much time as he could in the Badlands, often visiting the Marquis de Morez historic chateau.
And then in '36, as a salesman for Fargo Glass and Paint Company, I became well acquainted with Russell Reed, the director of the State Historical Society. And I did sell paint and glass and paint brushes and linseed oil and turpentine for use in the building to the State Historical Society for the company I work for.
But Harold quickly tired of life on the road as a salesperson. In 1942, he decided to start his own business, the Gold Seal Company.
Let's take a closer look at the unique methods used by one company that came up with one of the most successful product stories of the century. The product, glass wax. The company, Gold Seal, a highly specialized...
Through Harold's persistence, hard work, and the right decisions, Gold Seal succeeded. By 1948, just 6 short years after he began the company, total sales reached $9 million. Harold never grew tired of hard work, and he never grew tired of North Dakota. Ever the patriot, in 1962, Harold made a run at the governor's office, hoping to bring to his home state the same sort of leadership skills he'd brought to the Gold Seal Company.
I might have done all right. I might have worked hard at the job. I was ready. I had people in place in Gold Seal Company that could have done the work, but it would have been confusing for me. Running the Gold Seal Company so totally independent. And in government, you are dependent on an awful lot of other people. And you can make a decision, but you can't execute it. And I didn't have that patience as a young man. When I wanted to do something, I wanted it done, and I wanted it done right now. And I might have been a good governor, I don't know.
Instead, it was another man who brought the name Schafer to the governor's seat in North Dakota, Harold's son, Ed.
He really had the same ambition that I had, and that is to try to do some good.
Rather than sit back and rest on his laurels, Harold got involved in as many charities and projects as he could in North Dakota. As the state's most generous philanthropist, it was only a matter of time before he invested in one of the state's most beautiful resources, a place Harold would come to call home, the Badlands. At the time, Medora was just another town on the edge of the Badlands, suffering from years of inactivity. Harold Schafer realized it was up to him to breathe life back into the community he loved so much. To Harold, it was a fitting tribute to the Marquis de Morez and to another sometime resident of Medora whom he admired.
I think Teddy Roosevelt was one of a bright star in the world, and he really did a lot of good in the world, and he stood for a lot of the best principles there is in his life that you and I admire and that we trust and that we work for and that we try to teach our children.
Medora and North Dakota would not have been the same without Harold Schafer. Harold Schafer has done so many great things over the course of his life. It's our hope that Medora will stand as a testament to his amazing life.
In addition to an enduring love of his state and country, Harold possessed an incredible optimism concerning the future. Combined with a deep appreciation for history and the lessons to be learned from it, was a total commitment to youth. As University of Mary President Sister Thomas Welder recalls, the idea of a values-based leadership program linking students to professionals proved irresistible to Harold.
Harold had great hope for the Harold Schafer Leadership Center as being one way of handing on that legacy of one generation to the next. As we began talking about the program, the very specific program that Harold, in fact, was good enough to give his name to, I think there he was looking for something more. And that brings up the whole interesting conversation on what is learning and what is education. And I think for Harold what was important, theory was certainly important, but equally important was practice. Harold believed that leadership was both privilege and responsibility. I mean, he looked at being a citizen of this country and being a citizen of North Dakota as privilege. And if you were so blessed, and he often used that word, I have been very blessed, why wouldn't I give back to others? So if you were so privileged as to be an American, a North Dakotan, then you had responsibilities. And your responsibilities were to give back. Now, how is it that you'd give back? You would give back out of your own talents and your own abilities. Everybody wanted a piece of Harold. And he was willing to give himself away day after day. He was absolutely selfless and made himself totally available, particularly to young people.
In a conversation with Sister Thomas after he'd agreed to lend his name to the university's leadership program, Harold reflected on the experiences that shaped his life and shared his dreams of how he hoped the concept would evolve and what it would mean to students and to North Dakota.
We never considered ourselves as authority or boss. We loved the people that worked for us. We loved our employees. We did everything we could to try to help them have a nice living. I never had a feeling in my life, personally, that I was any different than anybody else. I just never had that feeling. I don't know, maybe I have so much respect for other people and what they have done that I never considered myself quite equal to most of them. And I really think, Sister Thomas, that you and I are kind of a connecting link in the heavens above from the past to the future. In our connecting link, if we can slip a little of the good into the future to the hearts and minds of the young people, that's about the best job we can do. But what she's trying to do and what she's asked me to try to do by using my name is to give to you young people some principles of life and some goodness of things that you can carry on and give to the next generation and to other people that you know, and you can use it as a happy guide to a comfortable life during the living process that you're granted on this earth. A large majority of these students can gain some knowledge here, can find some important things that'll help them in their life be happier in their work. And after all, that's what we all want, is comfort. And if you're comfortable in your work and you like your work, life's going to be much easier, no question about it. I do not know the future, and neither does Sister Thomas. But while it's here, while it's serving, while the students are coming, is certainly an electrifying thing in the minds of these young people, and should be. And our prayer, of course, is that it is, and that you people do learn, and that you do want to learn more, and after you leave here, you still want to learn more. The success of the leadership aspect of this class is going to be how they interpret the past of my life with the University of Mary and with the ideas of Sister Thomas in the heart and mind of the young people in these classes. I don't think you can have a civilization and a society in this world in the future that doesn't have various honest principles and aren't decent people. We are a young country and a good one and an excellent one and a world idealistic one, but integrity is a great word, and honesty is a great word, and decency is a great word, and fair play are great words. And the prayer of all of us who've been here is that we can translate some of the good things of our life to the soul and heart of you as a person, so that when you leave here, you have a sort of a respect for the good things that some of those others did, and have a desire in your own heart to do some good things, including occasionally, now and then, when you can, doing some good things for others.
By the fall of 1998, the concept of the Harold Schafer Leadership Center had become a reality. In addressing the first graduating class, Harold expressed his belief in the program and the ability of its graduates to contribute to the future of Bismarck, North Dakota, and mankind.
To the young people who are students in this class, what do you want in life? What are you looking forward to? What do you expect? It should be possible for you to approach the tasks that come in the future easier and better because you have a better start. Those of you who are privileged to go to school here at the University of Mary have a better start in the world than most of us older ones have. Do not forget ever, in order to accomplish great things, you must have the enthusiasm. You must, and it's an absolute fact, you must believe in the success if you ever expect to be successful. I just can't help but think that the future of people, men, women, young, old, school children, workers, is just like it always has been. I think I could say with some measure of absolute, because it's that way and has been that way in all of history. It's recorded in books. It's been spoken from pulpits. It's been spoken from speakers. It's been written up in libraries full of good books. Mankind in this world has succeeded because of the efforts of its people worldwide. And it will continue to be the same thing for all of us because of your efforts and the things you do in the future.
In recognition of his leadership in promoting the state of North Dakota and his efforts on behalf of its citizens, in 1975, Harold Schafer was presented with the state's highest honor, the Theodore Roosevelt Rough Rider Award. Current Governor John Hoeven cites the continuing impact of Harold's leadership in the development of Medora and the Harold Schafer Leadership Center on the state of North Dakota, noting the vision, generosity, and passion that marked his life and created his legacy.
The Harold Schafer Leadership Center at the University of Mary in 2001 held an event that was really a tribute for Harold Schafer, and a marvelous event. Both Harold and Shyla were there, along with many leaders from throughout the state, not only business leaders, but leaders in government and education and many other fields. And I think one of the things that struck me about it particularly is the affection that people had for this man and for all that he'd done for North Dakota and for so many people in North Dakota. He really had a national impact through the Gold Seal Company, but I think that affection really flowed from the recognition that Harold Shaffer truly loved North Dakota as a place and the people that live here. You'll hear many stories about Harold where he would meet somebody, talk to them, find out, maybe they needed money for college, or maybe they needed money for family reasons, or for something else, and the next thing he'd be sending them a check in the mail, and totally surprise them. Just those kinds of acts of help and kindness that he was legendary for. And then, extending it further to what he did for the state in terms of Medora, and creating, really a lasting national treasure for this state and really for the country. By the way, he came in, he had a vision and a dream for Medora, and he made it happen. And he gave not only the financial resources to do it, but so much of his time, his effort, his strength, and his personality to pull people in and make it an effort that has taken hold and now is truly a national attraction and really a national treasure for our state and for our country. I mean, those are the kind of things that he did that are going to far outlive his time on this earth. That is a legacy that will go on forever.
When I was little, I was always intrigued with a small wooden box that sat on my dad's desk. Whenever I was there, I bothered him about it. I wanted to see it. Little hinged wooden box. It was, when you opened it, the top said, "The secret of success." And I always wondered what that secret was. But if you looked at the bottom of the box, there was a simple but very powerful word printed on the bottom. It said, "Work." That was Harold Shaffer's hard work that was so motivational to the employees of the family company, to the people that he worked with, his suppliers, the customers. It was that hard work, that ethic that really got the job done. And I can tell you, no one worked harder than this man, Harold Shaffer. He had faith in himself and in his abilities. I remember asking him one time, "What made you so willing to risk everything to start your own business?" He said, "Well, hell, Ed." Sorry, Sister T. He talked that way. He said, there was no risk starting my business. I didn't have anything when I started, so I didn't have anything to lose. But I knew in my heart that the good Lord gave me the ability to work, and if I worked hard, I could always at least make enough money to keep a roof over our heads and keep you children clothed and fed. And I asked him, "What made you think you could do it?" And he uttered his now famous statement, "It's easy. You just do the best you can with what you have where you are." Tonight, we're here to recognize a great man, Harold Shaffer. Others in North Dakota have been more successful in making money, but no one can top Harold in giving it away. Others have created companies with more employees, but no one holds employees with more respect and recognition and admiration for their performance and work, and what a powerful example that is. Others in North Dakota have made a bigger splash, but no one has left a longer, more lasting impression and stamp of character and entrepreneurship and leadership in this state than Harold Shaffer. And now the University of Mary is trying to instill these very values in students so that they can carry on. We can use Harold Shaffer as an example of work, accomplishment, generosity, character, honesty. And by teaching the tools of success, I am convinced that we can inspire the new leaders, the new entrepreneurs, the new pioneers for the new century.
Harold had his wake-up call. Just as he later woke up the state of North Dakota, he had his wake-up call in his young years in Aberdeen, South Dakota, trying to sell his new product. And somehow or other, it wasn't going well. But that very day, he learned a life's lesson that you do not sell products. You help people. You remove your suit coat and you pitch in wherever they need you, and success will be yours. Work is not self-serving. It is in behalf of others. It is that force, that wake-up call of inspiration to hundreds of Gold Seal employees that said to them, "You don't work for me," said Harold, "you are part of my family." To borrow a phrase from John C. Maxwell, to measure Harold Schafer as a visionary leader, as premier entrepreneur, as successful businessman, put a tape around his heart, not around his head.
On behalf of the first 8 graduates of the Harold Schafer Emerging Leaders Program, we just want to say thank you, Mr. Schafer. Thank you for your incredible example to us. Thank you for helping us find our passion and believing in us so that we could believe in ourselves. Your example has shown us that North Dakota is truly a place where we can be successful entrepreneurs and good citizens. We are happy to report to you tonight that of the 8 graduates from the Harold Schafer Leadership Center and the University of Mary, 7 of us have found employment in North Dakota.
And so Harold's legacy lives on, right here in the beautiful Schafer Leadership Center on campus, where graduates of the Emerging Leaders Academy go forward, believing in themselves, exploring their passions and turning their visions into reality. Today, the Emerging Leaders Academy is a nationally recognized groundbreaking program. With a growing number of concentrations in business, education, healthcare, and human services, it provides values-based educational experiences and training in practical skills for tomorrow's leaders and entrepreneurs. Its graduates have taken their place in businesses and professions throughout North Dakota and the United States. Truly, Harold Schafer lived the American dream, but more importantly, he shared it, and in so doing set an example of servant leadership on which future generations will build for years to come. This is the story of Harold Schafer, and his is a legacy of leadership.
I know that I have never heard Harold Schafer say anything bad about a person. He was always positive. He thought there was nothing that he couldn't do or that we couldn't do in our business or in Medora or whatever our job was, that anything was possible.
Well, gosh, he was, like I mentioned, a motivator supreme. I can remember the first national sales meeting that I went to, and everything was all set up, and we were waiting for Harold to come on, and he comes strolling across the stage, and all of a sudden he had a gun with him, a pistol, and making shooting shots and stuff, blank shots, and stuff, and everybody jumped, and and he could just start right then, and then away he would go, and he would just, by the time we left there, we knew that our next sales goal was going to be reached.
Mr. Eastman had a column in the Bismarck Tribune, similar to what Jack Case had the last 10 years or so before he left. And then there was someone who was saying if they could find a poor boy who didn't have a bicycle, he had a bicycle to give them. Well, they had, I think it was 33 or 35 requests that came in for the bicycle. So Harold, in his way, bought 33 or 35 bicycles and gave to all those kids.
The last summer Harold was around in Medora. He was, having some health problems, you could tell, but his character was still at 100%. He was just great, and there was an event where he was thanking the musical singers for their, hard work throughout the summer and so forth, and I was working at that event, and he took time out of his busy schedule to, pull us over. He gave us all teddy bears and boxes of Mr. Bubble, and he signed them for us. It was great. He was so appreciative of everyone who was involved in any part of the process that he enjoyed.
You get Harold in his office with that big fancy desk he had in the middle of the room. I can see where some people might get taken aback by being overcome by a massive individual. He was that, mentally and physically, but he didn't intend to throw it around. And when he started to talk to you, he talked to you just like you and I are talking. So I think he was quite a man. If I were to select someone to be friends with, I think Harold would be topping a list.